Hey there, Blue Lanterns, the Comics Kid 2099 here to discuss an episode of Green Lantern the Animated Series titled Blue Hope. If you haven't seen the episode, go do it before you go further with this review, because I will be spoiling stuff starting now. Hal, Kilowog, and Aya come to a planet where Ganthet and St. Walker have started the Blue Lantern Corps, with some elephant guy and Razor attempting to remake himself as a man without rage. Hal brought half of a Manhunter to Ganthet, and much like how the Blue Lanterns supercharge nearby Green Lanterns, they also supercharge Manhunters as well. Razor makes some nasty comments about robots, which hurts Aya's feelings, so she tries to convince the captive Manhunter that he can grow beyond his programming, all while he has summoned other Manhunters to destroy the emotion-filled beings on this world. The Manhunters detect emotions in Razor and Aya, the emotion of love, if you know what I mean, and when Aya is attacked, Razor goes into full Red Lantern mode, even though the Blues are supposed to cancel out his powers. Razor decides some rage is good, and returns to work with Hal and pals. Cue credits. So it's taken a few episodes, but we finally got the band back together, and I gotta say the wait was well worth it. This is a pretty good episode. I imagine when the folks behind this series were plotting out the Manhunter arc, someone said, hey, why don't the Green Lantern Corps find that St. Walker guy and have him supercharge the entire Corps, and then they can kick the Manhunters' butts. So this episode answers that by saying that the Manhunters, coming from the same source as the Lanterns, would also be supercharged by them. And that makes a lot of sense, and it prevents our heroes from having such an easy and unsatisfying, narratively speaking, victory. And I like that Razor is at least attempting to make a new life for himself now that, as far as he knows, the danger is over. Earlier in the season, Razor knew that he needed his rage to fight against what he had been a part of, but now that he thinks the fighting is done, he at least tries to get away from that. And while I like that Razor tried to find a path to serenity, if we're all being realistic, completely getting rid of rage isn't a tenable solution. It's a lot like Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. Yoda is over here telling him that giving in to anger just once means that you're on the path to the dark side forever, but that wasn't exactly true. He briefly had rage, and then he course corrected. My cynical brain would even go so far as to say that, in the real world, if you try to live life like St. Walker and the Elephant Guy, then people will walk all over you until there's no more you for them to walk all over. So that's a long way to a short point of me saying, you go, Razor. This episode also touches on the how sentient is a robot thing, which is a touchstone of just about every science fiction thing ever. So you might think this is old hat, but I do like what this episode does with it, mostly. I do think it's a little silly that Razor says robots are dumb poopy heads when he's been hanging out with Aya for months and she's standing like 3 feet away from him. This episode tries to play it off as, I didn't mean it like that, but how exactly can you interpret that statement in multiple ways? And just because this episode does make it clear that Manhunters are evil and they don't want to be anything other than evil, doesn't make it any less weird that Razor comes down so hard on robots like that. It'd be different if he had just met Aya, but like I said, was on the same ship with her for months, is clearly in love with her, as we saw at the end of the Red Lantern invasion, and is affirmed here, so it is a little odd. But what I liked about this is that so often, you'll see superheroes destroy robots to get your quota of violence in, and to get around the censor saying that you can't hit human people. This is mostly a thing you would see back in the 1960s and not so much now. But then if you have sentient thinking robots with emotions like the Red Tornado or Aya, then you've got a problem, because you've still got Superman or Green Lantern destroying robots like it's nothing. And yes, the Manhunters are evil, and unrepentantly so, but if they were organic beings, how wouldn't it be murdering them, I don't think. I think I had a point in there somewhere, but I literally have rethought my thoughts on this episode as I wrote this review. It really is kind of problematic that the Green Lanterns are killing the Manhunters just because they're machines. If they were okay with killing organic life forms, that might make this a little less of an issue, but I doubt that you would see that unless this was a really bloody Adult Swim series. Anyway, while I still really enjoyed this episode for bringing Razor back into the cast and for revisiting St. Walker and explaining why that won't be an easy fix for the Manhunters, I do kind of have some issues with the some robots are cool, others you can murder theme of this episode. It doesn't really get resolved, and it seems even Aya is cool with murdering the Manhunters because, in her words, they are just machines. I don't think that's a good enough distinction, though. Maybe this one needed another draft before it went into production. But I didn't hate this episode. I really liked it, but it isn't without its problems. So what did you guys think of the episode? Like it? Hate it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be doing another Green Lantern the Animated Series review next week, so look forward to that one. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.